Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is not a wall that stops you. Fear is energy. Fear is fuel. And the moment you learn to harness it, you stop being its prisoner and you become its master. Most people let fear control their life. They let fear dictate their decisions. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. And what does that do? It robs them of their future. It steals their dreams. It paralyzes them into staying small. But here's the truth. Fear is nothing more than a signal that there is something on the other side that matters to you. If you weren't afraid, it wouldn't mean anything. Fear shows up when you're about to step into growth, when you're about to expand, when you're about to break through. That's why the very thing you're afraid of is often the very thing you must do. Think about this. Everything you want, your success, your love, your fulfillment, it all lives on the other side of fear. And if you keep running from it, you're running from the life you deserve. So how do you overcome fear? You don't wait for it to disappear. You don't negotiate with it. You move through it. You condition your body, your mind, and your spirit to take action in spite of it. Fear loses its power when you do the thing anyway. The longer you hesitate, the bigger it grows. The quicker you act, the smaller it becomes. You want freedom. You want success. You want joy. Then stop letting fear drive the car. Put it in the back seat. Grab the wheel and step into your power. Because the truth is, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is deciding that something else is more important than fear. Courage is taking that leap even when your legs are shaking. Courage is speaking when your voice is trembling. Courage is showing up when everything in you wants to hide. So today, make a decision that you will no longer be controlled by fear, a decision that you will step forward, take action, and claim the life that is waiting for you. Because fear may knock at your door, but you don't have to let it in. The future belongs to the bold. The future belongs to those who act. And the future belongs to you. If you choose to overcome fear, fear is not your enemy. It's a signal pointing you toward growth. Fear is one of the most misunderstood forces in human life. People spend their entire existence running from it, burying it, numbing it, or disguising it as logic. They build walls around themselves, call it safety, and convince themselves that life is better this way. But deep down, you and I both know that fear is not something to be eliminated. It's something to be understood. Fear is a message. It's a flashing light on the dashboard of your soul, screaming that there's something in front of you that matters, something that has the potential to change you, something that could expand your life beyond the limits you've known. That's why fear doesn't show up when you're doing things that don't matter. Nobody gets terrified brushing their teeth. Nobody feels paralyzed filling out a form at the grocery store. But when it's time to step into the unknown, when it's time to put yourself on the line, when it's time to rise to a level you've never reached before, that's when fear comes knocking. And most people mistake that knock as a warning to retreat, when in reality, it's a signal to advance. Think about every breakthrough you've ever had in your life. Think about the moments when you became more than who you were yesterday. Was fear present? Of course it was. Fear was there the first time you stood up to speak in front of a crowd. Fear was there when you decided to take a risk in your career. Fear was there when you walked into a room not knowing how others would judge you. And yet, each of those moments, once you moved through them, became a milestone that shaped you. Fear wasn't blocking you. Fear was guiding you toward the edge of your current identity, daring you to expand it. Most people don't realize that fear is proof of importance. If something terrifies you, it's because deep down it matters to you. If it didn't matter, there would be no fear. That's why people confuse comfort for peace. Comfort isn't peace, it's stagnation. Comfort is the slow death of potential. Peace, real peace, comes from growth, from expansion, from stretching yourself into someone you didn't think you could become. And fear is the arrow pointing you in that direction. It's the compass that tells you this way. This is where you need to go. But here's the catch. Fear speaks in a language that sounds like danger. It tells you to stop, to back away, to hide. Your body shakes, your heart races, your mind runs wild with worst case scenarios. It feels real. It feels like stepping forward will lead to destruction. But that is an illusion created by your nervous system to protect you from risk. Your brain doesn't want you to grow. It wants you to survive. And survival means staying where you are, doing what's familiar, staying inside the box. So when you feel fear, what you're really experiencing is not a warning of death, but a challenge to live more fully. The people who achieve greatness, who transform their lives, are not those who never feel fear. They are those who reinterpret fear. They see it as a signal, as a guide, as a friend. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this fear? They ask, what is this fear trying to show me? What is this fear telling me about the importance of this next step? And in that shift of perspective, fear loses its ability to paralyze. It becomes fuel. It becomes motivation. You see fear as energy. It creates adrenaline. It wakes up your senses. It sharpens your mind. Left unmanaged, it can cripple you. But directed properly, it becomes power. It becomes the extra push that launches you into action. That's why athletes, performers, leaders, they all feel fear before they step onto the stage or the field. But instead of letting it control them, they channel it. They let it remind them of the magnitude of the moment, of the opportunity in front of them. They don't fight fear. They ride it like a wave. Imagine living a life where fear doesn't dictate your decisions, but instead illuminates your path. Imagine if every time you felt that nervous energy, you recognized it as life trying to expand you. You wouldn't run from it. You'd move toward it. You'd stop waiting for the fear to go away and start acting while it's still there. You'd stop interpreting it as a stop sign and start seeing it as a green light. And suddenly, the walls that once held you back would become doors you could walk through. Fear is not here to destroy you. Fear is here to sculpt you. Every fear you face builds strength. Every fear you overcome expands your identity. Every time you step into fear, you take back control from the small voice that wants to keep you ordinary. And each time you ignore fear and play it safe, you shrink a little more, you dim your own light, you settle for a smaller version of yourself. The truth is, fear doesn't mean stop. Fear means go. Fear doesn't mean danger. Fear means importance. Fear doesn't mean weakness. Fear means opportunity. When you change the way you interpret fear, you unlock doors that most people will never touch in their lifetime. You stop waiting for certainty and you start embracing possibility. You stop demanding safety and you start creating freedom. You stop living as a prisoner and you start living as a warrior. Everything you desire lives on the other side of fear. Every dream you've ever had, every vision you've ever carried in your heart, every goal that feels so big it almost scares you to say it out loud, it all sits just past the invisible line that fear draws in front of you. Fear builds walls, but those walls are paper, thin, and the second you take a step forward, you realize they were never as strong as they appeared. Most people never experience the life they truly want because they allow fear to convince them that what they want is impossible, too risky, too uncertain, too costly. But deep down, they know the truth. The only thing standing between who they are and who they want to be is their willingness to push through fear. Fear disguises itself as protection, but what it really does is lock you in a cage. That cage may feel safe, but it's suffocating. Inside the cage, you can't breathe deeply. You can't stretch your wings. You can't live fully. Outside the cage, the air is fresh, the horizon is wide, and the opportunities are endless. But to get there, you have to walk past fear. You have to take a step into the unknown. That's why so few people live the life they dream of. Because stepping into the unknown means leaving behind the familiar. It means leaving behind the illusion of control. It means being willing to fail, to stumble, to be judged, to be misunderstood. And yet, that's the price of freedom. That's the cost of fulfillment. Look at the people you admire, the innovators, the leaders, the creators, the builders, the ones who shaped history. They all had to confront fear. Do you think they didn't feel it? Of course they did. They felt it just like you. They had moments of doubt, nights of uncertainty, days when they wondered if they were crazy for trying. But the difference is they refused to let fear have the final say. They understood that fear was not a stop sign, but a doorway. They realized that everything they wanted, the breakthroughs, the joy, the success, was waiting on the other side. You see, fear always appears right before expansion. It's the body's natural response to stepping into uncharted territory. That pounding heart, that nervous energy, that voice that says, what if? That's all evidence that you're standing at the edge of growth. And the only way to claim what's waiting for you is to move forward anyway. You don't get rid of fear by waiting. You don't conquer it by hiding. You dissolve fear by action, by movement, by refusing to let it dictate the direction of your life. The moment you step through it, you discover it wasn't a mountain at all. It was a shadow projected by your mind, magnified by hesitation. Think about the last time you did something that scared you. Maybe it was speaking in front of people. Maybe it was starting something new. Maybe it was putting yourself out there in a way that felt vulnerable. How did you feel after? Chances are you felt alive, you felt stronger, you felt proud of yourself. That's because fear is not a block, it's a threshold. And once you cross it, you don't just get the reward, you get a new version of yourself. You expand your identity, you prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you believe, and every time you do it, you shrink fear's power over you. The tragedy is that most people stop right before the threshold. They feel the fear and retreat. They let the discomfort convince them that it's not the right time, not the right opportunity, not the right path. And so they stay stuck, dreaming about a life they never live, wishing for change that never comes, envying those who had the courage to step through their own fear. What they don't realize is that fear wasn't there to block them. It was there to show them the way. It was there to remind them that what they wanted mattered enough to be afraid of losing it. Everything you desire, your success, your love, your purpose, your fulfillment, will require you to face fear. There is no shortcut around it. There is no way to avoid it. The only path is through. You can spend your life managing fear, negotiating with it, waiting for it to disappear, but you'll be waiting forever. Fear doesn't leave. It only shifts shape. It only transforms when you decide to act in spite of it. And once you act, once you move forward, once you take that leap, fear begins to lose its grip. The moment your actions prove that you're bigger than your fear, you unlock a power inside you that nothing can take away. Imagine what your life would look like if you stopped running from fear. Imagine the goals you would chase, the risks you would take, the relationships you would build, the experiences you would embrace. Imagine if instead of shrinking back when fear appeared, you leaned into it. Every door that seems locked would open. Every ceiling that feels unbreakable would shatter. Every limitation that once defined you would dissolve. And you'd realize that the life you've been longing for was never out of reach. It was just waiting for you to walk through the fear standing in front of it. Fear will always be there, whispering in your ear, telling you that it's safer to stay where you are. But safety is an illusion. There's no real safety in staying small. There's no true security in holding back. The real danger is in never living, in reaching the end of your days and realizing that fear stole the life you were meant to live. Fear will try to convince you that playing it safe is protection, but in reality, playing it safe is surrender. The life you want is not hiding from you. It's waiting on the other side of fear. The wealth you want to create, the love you want to experience, the impact you want to make. It's all there, just beyond the line you're afraid to cross. And the only way to get there is to walk straight through the fear, to take that leap, to claim what is already yours. Fear will not vanish, but your courage will grow stronger than it. And when that happens, you'll finally realize that the other side of fear was never just about achieving what you want. It was about becoming who you were always meant to be. You don't wait for fear to disappear. You act in spite of it. Too many people are stuck because they believe that one day, somehow, fear will magically vanish. They think there will come a morning when they wake up with no doubts, no anxiety, no hesitation, and only then will they finally take the leap. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect timing, the perfect level of certainty before they move. But here's the truth: that moment never comes. If you're waiting for fear to go away, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. Fear is not designed to disappear. Fear is designed to test you, to challenge you, to sharpen you. It's a constant companion that shows up whenever you're about to step into something that matters. The difference between those who live fully and those who stay stuck is not that the fearless exist and the fearful don't. It's that some people choose to act even when fear is loud, even when the butterflies are raging in their stomach, even when their legs are trembling. Think about how fear works. It shows up before the action, not after. It screams at you before you make the move, before you take the leap, before you say the words. But the second you step forward, the second you break inertia, the fear starts to shrink. Action is the antidote to fear. The longer you stand still, the louder fear grows. The longer you hesitate, the more convincing it becomes. Your brain begins to spin stories of disaster, rejection, humiliation. But when you move, when you take that first step, you prove to yourself that those stories were smoke, not fire. Fear thrives in imagination, but it weakens in reality. Every major breakthrough in your life will demand that you act while fear is still present. The first time you asked someone out, you were afraid. The first time you stood up to speak, you were afraid. The first time you tried something new, you were afraid. But what happened once you did it? The fear began to fade. Confidence didn't show up before action. It was built through action. Waiting to feel confident before moving is like waiting to feel strong before lifting weights. It doesn't work that way. You lift, you strain, you push, and then strength comes. The same is true with fear. You step, you stumble, you risk, and then confidence grows. The trap is that most people think fear is a stop sign. They believe it's telling them not to proceed, that the discomfort means danger, that the butterflies mean they aren't ready. But in reality, fear is a green light. Fear is telling you this moment matters, this opportunity counts, this step is worth taking. If it didn't matter, you wouldn't feel fear. And so when you choose to act in spite of it, you are retraining your nervous system to recognize fear as a signal for action, not avoidance. You are conditioning yourself to use fear as fuel instead of as a barrier. Imagine how your life would transform if you lived this way. Imagine if every time fear showed up, you interpreted it as a sign to move forward, not to retreat. That project you've been stalling on, you'd start today. That conversation you've been dreading, you'd have it. That leap you've been postponing, you'd take it. You wouldn't waste years negotiating with fear, waiting for permission to live. You would act now, and through action, you would gain clarity, courage, and momentum. Here's the paradox: when you act in spite of fear, not only does fear shrink, but you expand. You grow into someone who trusts themselves, someone who knows they can handle discomfort, someone who doesn't need certainty to take action. And once you become that person, fear can no longer control you. Fear may still visit, but it won't have the same hold over you. You'll recognize its voice, but you won't obey it. You'll hear the doubts, but you'll move anyway. You'll feel the anxiety, but you'll take the leap. And in doing so, you'll discover a new level of freedom, a new level of personal power. Fear tells lies. It tells you that if you try, you'll fail. It tells you that people will judge you. It tells you that you'll lose what you already have. But none of those lies can withstand action. Failure is only feedback. Judgment fades faster than you imagine, and loss is often the doorway to gain. But you don't realize this until you move. Action reveals truth. Inaction preserves illusion. If you want to see fear for what it really is, a shadow with no substance, you must act while it's still whispering in your ear. Some of the greatest moments of your life are waiting on the other side of a decision that fear is trying to stop you from making. The love of your life, the business you've dreamed of, the opportunities that could change everything. They don't wait for you to be fearless. They wait for you to be courageous. And courage doesn't erase fear. Courage means moving while fear still exists. The people who achieve the most are not those who have no fear, but those who have decided that fear will not have the final word. When you accept that fear is not leaving, you stop postponing your life. You stop bargaining with yourself, telling yourself that one day you'll feel ready. You realize readiness is a decision, not a feeling. You decide that today, even with fear present, you will act. You decide that you will not wait for permission. You decide that fear can walk beside you, but it cannot lead you. And in that decision, you unlock the door to progress, growth, and transformation. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward even when afraid. So many people misunderstand courage. They think that to be courageous, you must first eliminate fear, silence doubt, and erase uncertainty. They look at people who take bold action and believe those people must not have felt fear at all. But that's not true. Every person who has ever done something extraordinary has felt fear. Every leader, every pioneer, every creator has carried the weight of uncertainty. The difference is not that they were fearless, but that they chose to move anyway. Courage is not a clean slate where fear doesn't exist. It's the messy, trembling step you take while fear is screaming in your ear. The human brain is wired for survival, not for greatness. It will constantly remind you of everything that could go wrong, every possible failure, every worst case scenario. This is why fear will always show up when you step towards something meaningful. The more important the step, the louder the fear. People who misunderstand this wait their entire lives for a fearless moment that never comes. They put off their dreams, their goals, their desires, because they believe they must first feel perfectly confident. But confidence doesn't come before courage. Confidence is the result of courage. It's born from action, from proving to yourself that you can handle what you once thought you couldn't. Think about the stories of people who have changed the world. They didn't act because fear was absent. They acted because the vision, the dream, the possibility meant more to them than their fear. A soldier running in a battle doesn't do so because he isn't afraid. He does it because what he is protecting matters more than his fear. An entrepreneur launching a new business doesn't do it because she feels certain of success. She does it because her belief in the possibility outweighs the doubts in her head. A parent stepping up for their child doesn't act because there is no fear of failure, but because love is stronger than the fear of what could go wrong. That is courage, choosing to move forward because something matters more than the fear you feel. Courage is not a one-time decision. It's a practice, a discipline, a way of living. Every day, you're given opportunities to choose between fear and action. Every conversation you avoid, every risk you don't take, every moment you hold back is a decision to let fear win. And every time you step forward, even with shaking hands and racing heart, you are building the muscle of courage. Over time, that muscle grows stronger. You may never eliminate fear, but you learn to carry it with you, to keep walking even when it follows you like a shadow. The more you do this, the more you discover that fear loses its power the moment you act in spite of it. Courage is about stepping into discomfort. It's about allowing yourself to feel vulnerable and exposed, but doing it anyway. Vulnerability and courage are inseparable. To be courageous means to be willing to risk rejection, to risk failure, to risk being misunderstood. Most people avoid this at all costs because it feels unsafe. But the truth is, playing it safe is the riskiest move of all. Safety is an illusion that keeps you small. Growth only happens when you step into the unknown, when you allow yourself to stand on shaky ground, when you let your knees knock and your voice tremble, yet you still take that step. The beauty of courage is that it creates a ripple effect. The moment you act courageously, you inspire others to do the same. Your courage gives them permission to face their own fears. When you see someone else step up, even though they're clearly afraid, it awakens something in you that says, if they can, maybe I can too. That's why acts of courage have always moved humanity forward. They create momentum not only for the individual, but for everyone who witnesses them. Courage is also deeply personal. What requires courage for one person may feel effortless for another. For some, speaking in front of an audience takes incredible courage. For others, it's walking into a room of strangers. For some, it's leaving behind a job they've outgrown. For others, it's staying and speaking up. Courage is not measured by the size of the action, but by the depth of the fear you're willing to face. The greater the fear, the greater the courage required to move through it. And when you do, the transformation you experience is equally powerful. Courage transforms identity. Each time you act with courage, you become a little more of who you were meant to be. You expand your self-image. You prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you imagined. You stop defining yourself by your fear, and you start defining yourself by your willingness to rise above it. You stop being the person who holds back and become the person who steps up. And as your identity shifts, so does your reality. Opportunities open, doors appear, paths become visible that were once hidden, all because you chose to act even when afraid. Fear will always whisper in your ear. It will tell you you're not ready, that you're not good enough, that you might fail. Courage listens to the same voice but refuses to be ruled by it. Courage acknowledges the fear but still moves forward. That's why courage feels uncomfortable. It's not about eliminating fear, but about carrying it with you as you step into the unknown. People often believe that courage is reserved for heroes, for extraordinary individuals born with something special. But courage is human. It lives in every single one of us. It's not something you wait to feel. It's something you choose to express. Every act of courage, no matter how small, builds momentum. And those small acts compound into a life where fear no longer controls you. The person who makes a small, courageous decision today becomes the person who makes a bigger one tomorrow. Step by step, choice by choice, you create a life defined by boldness instead of hesitation. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward, even when afraid. It's choosing to act when everything in you wants to run. It's choosing growth over comfort, possibility over safety, purpose over paralysis. And when you live with courage, you unlock doors that fear has kept closed. You access parts of yourself you never knew existed. And you discover that the life you've been searching for was always waiting on the other side of your fear. The future belongs to the bold. Decide today to stop letting fear control you. Every single person is given a choice in life, whether they recognize it or not. You can live by fear or you can live by courage. You can let fear dictate your actions, shrink your vision, and control your destiny. Or you can decide that fear will no longer hold the pen that writes your story. The future has never been built by the hesitant, the doubtful, the ones who waited for certainty before they acted. The future has always been shaped by the bold, by those willing to take risks, to step into the unknown, to bet on themselves when the odds didn't seem favorable. Boldness is what moves the world forward, and it's what will move your life forward too. Fear wants you to settle. Fear wants you to trade your potential for safety, your dreams for comfort, your calling for predictability. It whispers in your ear that it's better to avoid pain than to chase possibility. It convinces you that if you don't take risks, you won't fail. But what fear doesn't tell you is that avoiding failure is its own kind of failure. Refusing to take chances is its own kind of loss. Playing it small doesn't protect you, it imprisons you. And the cost of that imprisonment is your future. Boldness, on the other hand, unlocks everything. Boldness doesn't mean recklessness. It doesn't mean acting without thought. Boldness means you refuse to be ruled by hesitation. It means you're willing to make moves even when the path isn't perfectly clear. It means you act on your vision, your values, and your instincts, not on the limitations fear tries to place on you. Boldness is about making a decision and backing it with action, trusting that clarity will come as you move. The bold are not always the ones who know the outcome, but they are always the ones willing to step into it anyway. Think about every advancement humanity has ever made. Every breakthrough in science, every invention, every movement for freedom, every leap in art or business, it was all created by someone who chose boldness over fear. The people who dared to dream bigger than what was accepted, who dared to take risks that others avoided, who dared to step forward when everyone else stood still. If they had waited for fear to disappear, nothing would have changed. If they had waited for certainty, nothing would have been created. They made a choice to be bold, and that choice reshaped the future. In your own life, the same principle applies. The opportunities you crave, the life you desire, the impact you want to have, it will never come by waiting for the perfect moment. It will never come by staying where it's safe. It will only come when you choose boldness. When you decide to raise your hand, when you decide to speak your truth, when you decide to go after what you want, even though fear is present. The people who succeed are not those who never felt fear. They are those who acted anyway. Boldness is the bridge that takes you from where you are to where you want to be. What stops most people from boldness is the belief that fear is too strong, that the discomfort is unbearable, that the risk is too great. But fear is only powerful when you feed it. Fear grows when you hesitate. Fear multiplies when you stall. The longer you wait, the bigger it becomes. But the moment you act, fear shrinks. The moment you move, you take back control. Fear doesn't vanish, but it no longer dictates your choices. And that's where boldness is born, in the decision to act despite the fear, to move in the face of it, to reclaim your authority over your own life. Boldness is contagious. When you step forward, others notice. When you choose to live boldly, you give others permission to do the same. People watch your actions more than they listen to your words. When they see you move past fear, it sparks something in them. They realize that maybe their own fears aren't as powerful as they thought. Boldness creates ripple effects. One bold decision can inspire a family, a community, even a generation. You never know who is watching you, who is waiting for your example, who is quietly hoping you'll go first so they can find the courage to follow. The bold also understand something vital. Failure is not the enemy. Failure is feedback. Failure is growth. Failure is part of the process. The only real failure is never trying. When you're bold, you're willing to take risks, knowing that not every risk will pay off. But you also know that every step, every attempt, every so-called failure is moving you forward, shaping you, preparing you for the moments that matter most. Fear tells you failure is final. Boldness reminds you failure is a stepping stone. And once you adopt that perspective, fear loses one of its greatest weapons against you. There comes a point when you must draw a line in the sand and say enough. Enough letting fear dictate my choices. Enough letting hesitation rob me of opportunities. Enough living small when I was created for more. That decision to stop letting fear control you is the birthplace of boldness. It's the moment you take your power back. It's the moment you decide that your dreams, your future, your purpose matter more than your fear. Boldness doesn't mean you won't feel scared. Boldness means you act while scared. It means you choose growth over comfort, action over paralysis, vision over doubt. It means you recognize that fear may walk beside you, but it will not lead you. You are the one steering the ship. You are the one making the decisions. You are the one creating the future. And the future does not belong to the hesitant, the timid, the ones who let fear write their story. The future belongs to the bold, to the ones who take the pen back and write their story themselves, even when their hands are shaking. The moment you embrace boldness, the world opens. New doors appear, new paths unfold, new opportunities present themselves. Not because they weren't there before, but because you finally had the courage to see them and the boldness to step toward them. Your future will not be built by fear. It will be built by the decisions you make today to act in the face of fear, to move even when uncertain, to be bold enough to claim the life you deserve.